Alrighty, the Golden State Warriors won the NBA championship in 6 games. I'm over here drinking soy milk, and I guess you would say it's a Earl Grey tea right here, organic. Look at me being wholesome. Like and subscribe. We're talking about the Golden State Warriors offseason. I want to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section right about now. Hey, okay, let's get right into it. Sorry if I killed your ears. Oh, that's some good stuff. Like and subscribe for over 150 videos a month. And let's talk about it. Kevin Durant supposedly dead since the day that he signed with the Warriors. But the Golden State Warriors are set up to be contenders in the present, contenders in the future. Man, oh man, Andrew Wiggins, if he plays like this, like how he did for the playoffs for all of next season, he's definitely going to be a third-team All-NBA member and a second-team, at the very least, defensive team member and another starter in the All-Star game. Now, look, this team doesn't need to make any significant changes. This team is focused on retaining their key role players and extending their starters' contracts. And also, the Warriors are projected to have a record-breaking luxury tax payment next season and an even bigger one after that. And it's crazy to think about this also, but like, don't worry about the luxury tax payment because the new contract for the NBA's media deals will be signed next year. And if we're supposed to get $75 billion is the expectation, with the lowest being 50. Now, Steph Curry is so good, and he's the only one who isn't eligible for an extension. Everybody else is. Obviously, Jordan Poole is extension eligible because his eligibility for an extension expires the first day of the regular season. So obviously, with Jordan Poole rising into legit an amazing player, he's probably going to be looking at $20 to $25 million, but they most likely will wait till Jalen Brunson gets to free agency, and whatever Jalen Brunson commands will dictate the contract that Jordan Poole will receive. So wait till Jalen Brunson, Colin Sexton, Tyus Jones sign their deal, and then they'll talk. And Andrew Wiggins, like I talked about, this guy was extension eligible and was probably looking at a pay cut from the maximum salary he had been earning since he signed that deal in 2017 with the Timberwolves, that people were saying he was overpaid and underachieving. But now he looks like he's well compensated for what he is able to do. He was arguably able to reinvent himself, had his first All-Star season, and was one of the most impactful players in the finals run, not named Curry. And this is a guy that needs to be locked down now. They need to go and probably just extend his contract at the same annual rate he's already been at, because that seems like a perfect deal for him. And there's probably so much interest for him around the league now that he could be a free agent in 2023. So they probably want to extend him. Draymond Green is extension eligible for an average of $35 million. An extension of that amount will probably make him properly paid in the league, and a deal that aligns him with Curry's contract would just make sense for both sides. And the final guy that we need to talk about who's extension eligible is Klay Thompson, but my tinnitus is acting up and I hear so much ringing. But Klay Thompson is extension eligible, and I don't know if they'll look at his contract the same way given his injury history, but if they do, they'll probably do a incentive-based contract where if he doesn't meet the threshold of games or certain numbers, then the deal becomes partially guaranteed, so it's easier to move on if anything goes wrong. Now, Kevin Looney's a free agent, and James Wiseman's looking awesome, looking like he's shooting three-pointers. And Kevin Looney's probably going to start. His offers are going to probably start at the mid-level taxpayer, which is $6.4 million, which is slightly more than what he has been earning in his career. So it'll be interesting to see how high the Warriors will be willing to go to bring him back, because they definitely need. He's solidified his place in the Warriors rotation and culture, so they want him back. And plus, with James Wiseman developing, and they'll need a veteran presence to help reintegrate him into the lineup. So having Kevin Looney there will help. But if another team that has a full $10.3 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception could take him. So the Warriors were so smart last year. They brought in Otto Porter, the former number 3 overall pick, on a minimum. And he's one of the important role players for this team. But he's probably not going to come back due to the fact that, Golden State can offer Porter is the taxpayer mid-level exception, which is the same as Kevin Looney, $6.3 million. And they can only give him $3.1 million starting salary through his. I misspoke. So even though they can offer him the taxpayer mid-level exception, they can only give him $3.1 million starting salary through his non-bird rights. if they don't give him the taxpayer mid-level exception. And it seems like the market for Porter exceeds the taxpayer mid-level exception, so the Warriors may not have a chance to bring him back. But there is a possibility that Porter re-signs with the Warriors on a 1+1 with a player option for year 2, allowing him to accrue the early bird rights and re-sign him to a market value deal in 2023 when the cap jumps. Now, Gary Payne II has to be brought back. Despite being waived right before the start of the regular season, he will have early bird rights since no team claimed or signed him before the Warriors re-signed him. This will allow them to match any reasonable offer he can get, including ones at the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, and he's expected to have a strong market. So Gary Payne and Kevin Looney need to be brought back. Otto Porter, if they lose him, it's a little sad, but I think he is replaceable. Okay, he's definitely someone that I think the Warriors can easily replace. And people forget that they have a draft pick this year. Right now, we'll talk about the draft. And who do I think they should draft? I think they should draft Jake LaRavia. Jake LaRavia out of Wake Forest. He's a guy, small ball 5, can play power forward. He's a guy who has an all-around game. He's a lot more athletic than he looks. He tested well. He can hit the three-point shot looking at like a 36%. Really, he could have a similar game to Kevin Love, but better defensively. I would say he's a mix of, let me think of some players that I could say he's a mix of. He has a similar skill set to Al Horford, but isn't as big or long. Al Horford's like 6'10 with a 7-foot wingspan. This guy's 6'8 with a 6'10 wingspan. But he has similar capabilities to Dario Saric and Kevin Love on offense. And I think Jake LaRavia would be a good option for them. I don't think they need any more wings. They could look at Walker Kessler, who I think will be available there. Nikola Jovic could be available. If they don't go there, I could see them going Dalen Terry. If Ty Washington falls down to them, they have to snag him. I could see Kennedy Chandler or Blake Wesley as well going there, or Andrew Nembhard if they want to get a backup point guard. So I think those are all options. And then in the second round, I could see them drafting Peyton Watson out of UCLA with the 51st pick. I really think that would be a great fit for them. He's 19. Now, if we look at the rest of the team, look, the luxury payment for this team is $170.3 million for this past season. And that's insane. And next season, they're probably going to have like even a bigger one, a payment of 180 to 190. So it's crazy. And last year, they didn't use the taxpayer mid-level exception because they wanted Patty Mills. So they could use the taxpayer mid-level exception. This is crazy that next year they could be paying $500 million for this roster, which is unheard of. And we expect Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody to be integrated more regularly and consistently into the roster. And people forgot about Juan Toscano Anderson, who is phenomenal, and he's a free agent, but he's a restricted free agent. I expect them to be able to bring back Juan Toscano Anderson. He could definitely replace Otto Porter in the rotation, maybe not as efficiently, but if they lock him up long term, he has a cap hold of 2.1, maybe sign him for a 3-year deal for $15 million, or maybe a 5-year deal for $15 million. I don't know what his value is if his cap hold is 2.1, but bring back Juan Toscano Anderson. Nemanja Bjelica, he showed some value for them. They could bring him back. And definitely Andre Iguodala, if he doesn't retire, he's coming back. Damian Lee's coming back because he's brother-in-law with Steph. You don't let him walk away. I don't think Witherspoon, Quindary Witherspoon, or Chris Chiozza will be brought back. I think the rookies will do something. I think Dalen Terry is their best option to go out there, try to get a guard in the draft. That'll be right. But if they lose Otto Porter Jr., bring back Juan Toscano Anderson. He needs to be brought back. Gary Payton needs to be brought back. Nemja and Otto can walk. Damian Lee, they'll probably bring him back. I think this is pretty set. This roster's going to look pretty much exactly the same, with maybe Juan Toscano Anderson replacing Otto Porter. Kevin Looney will start the season, but James Wiseman will eventually be integrated into the starting lineup, we expect. Gary Payne will be back. Kevin Looney will be back. The only one that's questionable about being brought back is Nemanja Bjelica and Otto Porter Jr., because Porter might get some money and Nemanja Bjelica might get maybe a bit more money and more playing time. I expect Lee to stay. Let me know your thoughts down below. But yeah, I definitely think this is just a situation for them that it works out well. So yeah, bye.